Peter Britton Tobin was a Scottish convicted serial unaliver and S offender who served a whole life order at HM Prison, Edinburgh for 3 unalivings committed between 1991 and 2006. Police also investigated him over the unalivings and disappearances of other young women and girls. He served 10 years in prison for buggery and indecent assault of 2 girls in 1993, following which he was released in 2004. Only 3 years after his release, he was then sentenced to life with a minimum of 21 years for the and unaliving of Angelica Cluck in Glasgow in 2006. The remains of 2 teenagers who went missing in 1991 were subsequently found at his former house in Margate, Kent. He was convicted of the unaliving of Vicky Hamilton in December 2008, resulting in the minimum sentence being increased to 30 years, and then the unaliving of Dinah McCall in December 2009, resulting in a whole life order. He was diagnosed as a psychopath by a senior psychologist, and it was thought that he might have been connected with the Bible John unalivings. In the late 1960s, although police eventually ruled him out, he reportedly claimed in prison to a psychiatrist of having unalived 48 people. He was born in Johnston, Renfrewshire, Scotland on the 27th of August 1946, and he was one of the youngest of 8 children to Daniel and Marjorie Tobin. He had 4 older sisters and 3 older brothers. He was said to be a difficult child, and in 1953, then aged 7, he was sent to an approved school. He then reportedly joined the French Foreign Legion but later deserted. He later served a sentence in a Borstal and in 1970 was convicted and imprisoned in England for burglary and forgery. He then moved to Brighton, Sussex, England, where he married his 17-year-old girlfriend Margaret Montané, a clerk and typist, in August 1969. However, they separated after a year and she divorced him in 1971. In 1973, he then married a local nurse, 30-year-old Sylvia Jeffries. The couple had a son named Ian later that year and their daughter named Claire in 1975, the latter of whom died soon after birth. His second marriage lasted until 1976 when Sylvia left with their son. He then had a relationship with Kathy Wilson. They got married in 1989, with their son Daniel being born later that year. In 1990, they moved to Bathgate, West Lothian, Scotland. Wilson then left him in 1990 and moved back to Portsmouth, Hampshire, England, where she'd grown up. All 3 wives later gave similar accounts of falling for a charming, well-dressed psychopath who turned violent and displayed sadistic streak during their marriages. In May 1991, he moved to Margate, Kent, and in 1993 to Havant, Hampshire, to be near his son. On the 4th of August 1993, he attacked 2 14-year-old girls in his flat in Lee Park, Havant, after they went to visit a neighbour who was not home. They stopped at his flat and asked if they could wait there. After holding them at knife point and forcing them to drink strong cider and vodka, he essayed and arred the girls, stabbing one of them whilst his younger son was present. He then turned on the gas cooker without lighting it and left them for dead, but they both survived the attack. To avoid arrest, he went into hiding and joined the Jesus Fellowship, a religious sector in Coventry under a false name. He was later captured in Brighton after his blue Austin Metro car was found there. On the 18th of May 1994, at Winchester Crown Court, he entered a plea of guilty and received a 14-year prison sentence. In 2004, then 58 years old, he was released from prison and returned to Paisley in Renfrewshire. In September 2006, he was working as a church handyman at St Patrick's Church in Anderson, Glasgow. He had assumed the name of Pat McLaughlin to avoid detection, and he was still on the violent and S offender register following his 1994 convictions for and assault. An arrest warrant had been issued for him in November 2005 after he moved from Paisley without notifying police, but he was not discovered until he became a suspect in the unaliving of 23-year-old Angelica Cluck at the church. In May 2007, he received a further 30-month sentence for breaching the terms of the register. Cluck, then a student from Poland, was staying at the Presbytery of St Patrick's Church, where she worked as a cleaner to help finance her Scandinavian Studies course at the University of Gdansk. She was last seen alive in the company of Tobin on the 24th of September 2006, and is thought to have been attacked by him in the garage attached to the presbytery. Cluck was beaten, arred and stabbed, and her body concealed in an underground chamber beneath the floor near the confessional in the church. Forensic evidence suggested that she was still alive when she was placed under the floorboards. Police found her body on the 29th of September and Tobin was arrested in London shortly afterwards. He'd been admitted to hospital under a false name and with a fictitious complaint. A 6-week trial resulted from the evidence gathered under the supervision of Detective Superintendent David Swindle of Strathside Police and took place at the High Court of Judiciary in Edinburgh between the 23rd of March and the 4th of May 2007. The trial judge was Lord Menzies, the prosecution was led by Advocate Depute Dorothy Bain and the defence by Donald Findlay QC. Tobin was found guilty of airing an unaliving cluck and was sentenced to a life imprisonment to serve a minimum of 21 years. In sentencing Tobin, Judge Lord Menzies described him as an evil man. In June 2007, Tobin's former house in Bathgate was searched in connection with the disappearance of then 15-year-old Vicky Hamilton, who was last seen on the 10th of February 1991 as she waited for the bus home to Reading near Falkirk. Tobin is believed to have left Bathgate for Margate a few weeks after her disappearance. On the 21st of July 2007, Lothian and Borders Police released a statement that they had but did not immediately confirm the identity of the man arrested. The investigation later led to a forensic search of a house in Southsea in early October 2007, where Tobin is believed to have lived shortly before leaving Bathgate. On the 14th of November 2007, Lothian and Borders Police confirmed that human remains were found in the back garden of 50 Irvine Drive. A house in Margate occupied by Tobin in 1991 were those of Hamilton. In November 2008, Tobin was tried at the High Court in Dundee for Hamilton's unaliving. He was again defended by Donald Findlay, while the prosecution was led by the Solicitor General for Scotland, Frank Mulholland QC. The prosecution case went beyond the circumstantial evidence of Tobin having lived in the two houses in Bathgate and Margate in 1991, and consisted of eyewitness testimony of suspicious behaviour by Tobin in Bathgate, evidence to destroy his alibi, and DNA and fingerprints left on a dagger found in his former house, on Hamilton's purse, and in a shearing which her body was wrapped. After a month-long trial, Tobin was convicted of Hamilton's murder on the 2nd of December 2008. When sentencing Tobin to life imprisonment, the judge said, on the 11th of December 2008, Tobin gave notice to the court officials that he intended to challenge the verdict and overturn the sentence imposed on him, but the appeal was dropped in March 2009. Dinah McNichol, an 18-year-old sixth former from Tillingham, Essex, was last seen alive on the 5th of August 1991, hitchhiking home with a male friend from a music festival in Liphook, Hampshire. While hitchhiking, they accepted a lift from a male suspect. Her friend was dropped off at Junction 8 of the M25 near Reigate while McNichol stayed in the car with the driver. She was never seen again. After her disappearance, regular withdrawals were made from a building society account at cash machines in Hampshire and Sussex, out of character for McNichol, who had told friends and families that she intended to use the money to travel or to further her education. In late 2007, Essex police reopened the investigation into her disappearance following new leads. On the 16th of November 2007, a second body was found at 15 Irvine Drive in Margate, later confirmed by police to be that of McNichol. On the 1st of September 2008, the Crown Prosecution Service served a summons on Tobin's solicitors accusing him of her murder. This new trial began in June of 2009 but was postponed and the jury discharged in the following month after the judge ruled that Tobin was not fit to stand trial pending surgery. The case resumed on the 14th of December 2009 at Chelmsford Crown Court. On the 16th of December, after the defence had offered no evidence, a jury found Tobin guilty of McNichol's murder after deliberating for less than 15 minutes, and Tobin subsequently received his third life sentence. Operation Anagram was a nationwide police investigation into Tobin's life and movements. The investigation started in 2006 after his first murder conviction led by DCI Swindle of Strathside Police, and increased in intensity in December 2009 after Tobin's third conviction. It aimed to trace Tobin's past movements and possible involvement in 13 unsolved murders, including the 3 victims of the unidentified killer Bible John. Tobin is reported to have claimed 48 victims in boasts made in prison. Through the Homes 2 database, police forces across the UK were involved in the operation, investigating the possibility of Tobin's connection to dozens of murders and disappearances of teenage girls and young women. Swindle, speaking after Tobin's 2006 conviction for the murder of Cluck, said that Tobin's age and the method of murder sparked speculation that he may be a serial killer, as did interviews with him. Operation Anagram led to the discovery of the bodies of Hamilton and McNichol. It is believed that, as of December 2009, detectives across the UK were following up on up to 1,400 lines of inquiry. As part of their renewed inquiries, police were especially interested in tracing the owners of jewellery found at his residences. In 2009, police released photographs of 32 pieces of jewellery that they found in Tobin's possession between 1991 and 2006, which authorities believed to be mementos that he collected during his criminal career. In July 2010, it was reported that officers working on Operation Anagram had narrowed their review down to 9 unsolved murders and disappearances. However, the operation was wound down in June 2011, having failed to identify any more victims. Tobin was also linked to the disappearance of 18-year-old Louise Kay from Beachy Head in Eastbourne during 1988. Kay was never seen again after telling a friend she was going to sleep in a car at Beachy Head after an evening with friends, something she had done previously. Neither Kay or her gold Ford Fiesta car with a white door have ever been seen since. Operation Anagram established that Tobin was working in a hotel in Eastbourne at the time she disappeared, and learned that he was selling a small hand-painted car after she vanished. He had a history of working with dealing cars for an auction company and also had links to scrapyards. It is thought that he could repainted Kay's car and then sold it on to hide his crime. Kay had met a mysterious Scottish man shortly before she disappeared, and it was known that he had given her money for petrol for the car. Kay's case was featured in Crime Watch in 1994. Swindle stated in 2018 that he believes that Tobin killed Kay. Detectives investigated whether Tobin was responsible but could never prove his involvement. At the time of the disappearance, Tobin owned the property at 22 Wilsham Road in Brighton. The house and its garden have never been searched for remains. Operation Anagram ordered the search of 2 houses that Tobin had owned in Brighton, in relation to the search of Kay, but did not search 22 Wilsham Road. Former police officer investigator Mark Williams Thomas stated in a documentary in 2018 as part of his The Investigator British Crime Story series that he believes the body of Kay is still buried in the garden of the property. The murder of 22-year-old Jessie Earl in 1980 was also re-investigated by Operation Anagram. Earl had also disappeared from Eastbourne, and a skeletonized body was found in 1989 concealed in dense shrubland on Beachy Head, a place she would often take walks, and the same place Louise Kay had vanished from in 1988. Her own bra had been tied around her hands to restrain her. As with Kay, Tobin was living in the area at the time of her murder and was possibly working as a handyman at the Holy Trinity Church in Eastbourne at the time she disappeared. Earl was known to have been nervous about a man that she had met previously out walking. She had reportedly described meeting a middle-aged Scottish man near the same spot her body was found. Shortly after the discovery of Earl's body became public knowledge in 1989, Tobin hurriedly moved with his wife and child a great distance to Bathgate, Scotland, without prior discussion with his wife of these plans, which suggested he had an underlying reason to suddenly leave the area. This was notably similar to how Tobin had suddenly moved a great distance from Bathgate to Margate in 1991, shortly after he had murdered 15-year-old Vicky Hamilton in Bathgate, which showed how Tobin had a habit of moving across the country to avoid being detected for crimes he had committed. This was further suggested to be the case in Earl's murder, as Tobin was found to have checked into a hospital in Glasgow a few days after she was killed, which again fitted to his habit of moving as far away as possible after committing the murder. In 2012, criminologist David Wilson produced a documentary as part of his Kills Behind Bars The Untold Story series, in which he made his case to support the theory that Earl was likely a victim of Tobin. In Mark Williams Thomas's 2018 documentary on Louise Kay, he also supported the theory that Tobin could be responsible for Earl's death after linking her to Kay's disappearance. Operation Anagram also investigated, and in some cases disproved, links between Tobin and other murders and disappearances, including 13-year-old April Fabb, who disappeared on the 8th of April 1969 while cycling between Metton, Norfolk and Ruthven, Norfolk, and has not been seen since. Although the case has been linked to Robert Black, he had no known links to Norfolk, whereas Tobin is known to have regularly holidayed in the region, often taking trips to Norfolk on bank holidays. Fabb vanished on the day after Easter Monday bank holiday. The date of Fabb's disappearance falls between the first and second Bible John murders. In 2009, Norfolk police said that they found no evidence to link Tobin to Fabb's disappearance or any other unsolved cases in the county. 37-year-old housewife and nurse Dorothea Meacham disappeared on her way home to Kildunkirk Crescent on the 28th of February 1971 after attending a family party. She was found 6 weeks later, hard and strangled, and her body partially buried in the vicinity of a bridge spanning railway tracks between Clark Street and McClue Avenue in Renfrew, where Tobin grew up. Her clothes and handbag were missing. Richard Culborough, who died in 2008 at the age of 74, was found guilty of her murder on the 2nd of July 1971. However, Culborough denied committing the crime and always protested innocence in the case. Tobin's former neighbours in the area were interviewed by police in 2008. The decapitated body of an unknown woman believed to have been killed in early August was also found wrapped in a sheet near Schwaffen, Norfolk on the 27th of August 1974. The woman was never identified, but the sheet she was wrapped in was found to have been one of only 6 sheets sold by a Scottish company between 1962 and 1968, a period where Tobin was known to have been living in Glasgow. Tobin also used plastic sheeting to wrap up the bodies of Hamilton and McNichol and to hide Cluck's body. He was known to have previously used a knife to dismember the victims, such as Hamilton and McNicholl's legs, but bound in a similar way as the unknown victims. After his murder convictions, the body was exhumed in a failed attempt to identify the woman or the killer. Norfolk police said that there are no links between him and the Norfolk cases, and the police are working on the theory that the woman was an S-worker named the Duchess who went missing in 1974. 21-year-old Pamela Exhall vanished on the 30th of August 1974 after going for a late-night lone walk on a beach near Snettingham. Because he holidayed in Norfolk, police contacted his former wives to attempt to establish when and where he had visited the area. But police found no links and have ruled out connection to Exhall's disappearance or any other case in Norfolk. Jewellery recovered from his possession by Operation Anagram is thought to be similar to what she was wearing when she disappeared. On the 30th of March 1979, 17-year-old Yvette Ann Watson went missing from the David Rice Hospital Mental Health Unit in Norwich, where she was being treated for depression. She has not been seen since. In 2009, Norfolk police said that they had investigated the possibility that Yvette might have been the victim of Tobin but found no links. However, excerpts from her diary include an entry on the 20th of March 1978, a year before she vanished, which made a reference to a Mr. Tobin. On the 26th of February 1980, 20-year-old Elizabeth McCabe was found strangled to death in Templeton Woods, Dundee. Her murder was included in a list of cases that Mark Williams Thomas believed Tobin could not be ruled out from in a 2018 episode of his documentary series, The Investigator, a British Crime Story. Her case and that of 18-year-old Carol Lannon, who was found dead in March 1979, only 150 yards away from a cab a year before, was investigated by police as part of an investigation into murders committed by Angus Sinclair. 14-year-old Patricia Patsy Morris vanished on the 16th of June 1980 during a lunch break from a school in Feltham, and was later found strangled to death in bushes nearby. In 2011, there was media speculation that Morris's murder could be linked to Tobin, and Morris's father said that he believed Tobin could be responsible. Although Morris's murder was reportedly reinvestigated by Anagram, the case was subsequently linked to Levi Belfield, as Morris was his childhood girlfriend at the time, and he allegedly confessed to a murder in 2008. On the 4th of November 1981, the bludgeoned and strangled body of 16-year-old Pamela Hastie was found in Rannoch Woods in Johnstone, Renfrewshire. As she made her way through Rannoch Woods near her home, Pamela's attacker strangled her with a length of twine after striking her in the head with a piece of wood and dragging her into the bushes. She had been ad. Links to Tobin were investigated as Johnstone was his birthplace. At 9 a.m. on the 11th of September 1983, a fully clothed body of an unidentified white female was found in a ditch adjacent to a lay-by on the northbound carriageway of the A1 road, south of the Brompton Hut roundabout in Cambridgeshire. The body, which had several head wounds caused by a blunt object, was identified as that of Janice Weston, a 36-year-old solicitor from London and partner of a well-established firm based in Lincoln's Inn in the city. She was last seen alive at her office the previous day. Her blood-stained silver Alfa Romero was found 4 days later. 18-year-old mother of one, Nicola Payne, disappeared on the 14th of December 1991 while walking to a parent's house in Coventry. In 2010, there was media speculation that Tobin was responsible for her presumed murder. He was known to have spent time in Coventry in the early 90s and hiding with a religious sect while on the run from police. Mark Williams Thomas, who has been heavily involved in the Payne case, included Payne from a list of unsolved murders that he thought Tobin could not be ruled out from in a 2018 episode of his documentary series, The Investigator, a British Crime Story, but subsequently stated that he doesn't believe that Tobin was responsible for her murder. 15-year-old Helen Gorrie left her house on the 30th of July 1992 at night and met a man called John, and was later found murdered in a nearby community centre in Horndean. She had been strangled and smothered with her own clothing. Her murder was included on William Thomas's list of cases, and he felt that Tobin could not be ruled out. A man, John Corrigan, was jailed for a murder in 1999 after his business card was found in a room, but his conviction was overturned in 2003. After his acquittal, police said that they had no plans to reopen the murder investigation. 35-year-old mother of three, Jennifer Keeley, who suffered from mental health issues and who may have been homeless, was stabbed 16 times and found burned in a beach shelter in Eastbourne on the 22nd of January 2005. Tobin was linked to the case as he had connections to the town, but hospital records show that he was being treated in Paisley, Renfrewshire in the days leading up to the murder and was only discharged the day of the murder, which would appear to rule him out of the attack. Tobin's convictions led to speculation in the late 2000s that he was Bible John, a serial unaliver who unalived 3 young women in Glasgow in the 1960s. Patricia Docker, 25, Jemima MacDonald, 32, and Helen Puttock, 29. I have covered the case in another one of my videos on this channel, which includes a bit about Tobin. I'll leave the link to Bible John video on this video. On the 9th of August 2012, Tobin was taken to Edinburgh Royal Infirmary after suffering chest pains and speculated heart attack at HM Prison, Edinburgh. At the same prison on the 1st of July 2015, he was slashed with a razor blade in his sleep, leaving a 20cm scar running down his face and neck. His cellmate, 31-year-old Double R, Sean Moynihan, pleaded guilty to the attack in October and was sentenced to 32 more months in prison. In February 2016, Tobin was hospitalised again following a suspected stroke. In 2019, he was reported to be frail and suffering from cancer. He was taken to hospital again on the 30th of March 2022 and released 2 days later. He passed away at Edinburgh Royal Infirmary on the 8th of October 2022 at the age of 76. On the 16th of October 2022, his ashes were scattered into the sea after no relatives or next of kin claimed his body.